of the big trends in agriculture and agri-marketing right now, I like to call it, it's what's inside that matters. And this is really about intentional corporate cultures. This is about developing an intentional corporate culture that aligns with your brand. This is so critically important in agriculture as well as every other industry, but very, very important in agriculture. We've seen so many cases of poorly aligned or misaligned brands and cultures. We've seen it where brands are putting out a message to the audience or to the world that the culture just can't back up. The company is saying something that they are not doing. A great example of this was United Airlines. The company itself had branded itself as Fly the Friendly Skies, that they were the friendly, customer caring airline. This was the brand that they had promoted and bestowed upon the world. Unfortunately, their culture was so different than their brand. And today's day and age, where people can see inside an organization like never before, they can see the experiences, they can see what happens. You can catch when a culture and a brand don't align. So when United Airlines and the passenger being dragged off the plane was caught on video camera and shared with the world spoke and said that your brand does not align with culture and we don't believe what you're about. In that very instant, that day into the next day, they lost 4.8% of their market share value. An unbelievable disruption to their business because what they preached was their brand was not aligned with their culture. They were writing checks with their brand that their culture couldn't cash. In agriculture, this is just as critical. There are so many organizations in agriculture right now that are promoting brands, that are working so hard on the brand that they're putting forward to the world to establish their position in the market or to establish a new market position. And they're not paying attention to where their culture is and whether their culture is aligned with it. I've taken a look into some of the largest of the ag organizations out there. These are the top 10s in the big areas of agriculture, from equipment to life science, from grain handling to fertilizer. And these brands, you can see that they are promoting a very strong brand. But when I start to take a look at their culture scores, using something like Glassdoor as a great proxy, you start to see a very different story. You start to see a company that's got a 2.6 overall rating from its current employees. You start to see another one that's got only a 48% positive business outlook. You got another one that used to score very high, up in the high fours, is now trailing down to about 3.6. And finally, you've got another one that says that they don't believe in the CEO's leadership. These are all great signs of organizations that have some cultural issues. And this is something that you should, and we should all as agricultural companies and agri-marketers make sure that we are focused on. Trying to build a brand on a weak cultural foundation is a recipe for disasters. Again, today's customers are already skeptical. They don't believe carte blanche in the brand promises that we make. They need to experience it. And bad impressions and experiences resonate now more than ever. If you have a bad experience or if a customer has a bad experience, they are more likely to share that now than they have ever been in the past. And the cost of a redo is very high. That's even if you get the chance to have a redo. One of the biggest things that people tend to forget is the benefits of a strong, intentional corporate culture. Strong, intentional corporate cultures can be a differentiating factor. They can be a competitive advantage. They can attract an unfair share of the top talent in the market, something that is critical in this day and age. They could yield increased discretionary effort. People who care want to give more. And they can drive employee and customer loyalty. This is absolutely critical right now, especially in a time when market and demand uncertainty is present. You want to make sure that you're holding on to your customers and your employees. At the end of the day, we are all great litmus tests on whether a culture is strong or not. We all have in our own personal lives brands and cultures that we just love the experience of, that we love to go back to, that we will happily and readily give our purchasing dollars towards. We know what those experiences feel like. We know what the experiences feel like when they're not great. So us, as agri-marketers who work for these companies, we need to provide and look through that same lens at our own businesses and ask ourselves the difficult questions. Are our cultures standing the test? Are they where they need to be for today's day and age?